Welcome back to Band-Aid with Doc Rock. I'm Doc Rock, your rocktologist, and of course we're live from Cleveland, Ohio, the rock and roll capital. And just south of us is this little town called Alliance, Ohio. And man, they breed some awesome rockers, and they turned a bunch of them loose here tonight that made their way to Cleveland. Please welcome to the recovery room, Ram in the Bush. How are you guys doing tonight? Okay?
Great.
Everybody doing good? All right. Good to have you here. Hey, listen, we were just listening to some really cool Ram music, and do people do that, by the way, with the name of the band? You know, because it's Ram in the Bush. Do they to shorten the name? Do they call it like the Rams or the Bushes or?
No, you just coined it tonight, actually.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, did we see rock and roll history is being made here tonight? Wow. Well, we just heard a couple of really cool Ram in the Bush songs. What did we just hear?
The first one was called Heroes Conflicted.
Okay.
And the second one was called Love Locked Up.
Love Locked Up. Really?
Yes.
Well, some old girlfriends who like that one. Okay, fine. Cool stuff. Okay, now listen. Everybody, we always got to find out from every band, how did you come across the name? I know you hear this all the time, Ram in the Bush, okay? So there are four guys, and you each had to contribute a word, Ram in the Bush.
Yeah, we always say that. Tonight it's just in the.
And then when Tim and I play acoustic sets, we have to shorten it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Ram Bush.
Well, when I heard the name of the band, I went, no, I need the name of the band. He said, Ram in the Bush. I said, what's the name of the band? It's Ram in the Bush. I said, nobody would call themselves Ram in the Bush. I said, oh, yes, they would. They're very creative. How did you find this name?
Well, we went to college at Mount Union.
Okay, there you go.
Plug for you. And I was sleeping in religion class.
Okay.
And I was listening. This is the truth. A lot of people don't believe me sometimes.
Well, you better tell the truth about religious class.
I would never lie to you, Doc. But I was sleeping, and the professor was talking about how the story of God telling Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac.
Uh-huh.
And when Abraham went to go slaughter his son, God said, no. Okay, I know that you're for real. Here is a ram in the thicket, it says in the Bible.
Okay, sure.
And then the ram took the place of the son, and he actually sacrificed the ram for God. So Ram in the Bush ended up becoming an idiom for someone who saves you in the nick of time. And I woke up and I thought, that's brilliant. You know, not only is that brilliant because of the, someone who saves you in the nick of time, because we all need that.
Sure,
but
absolutely.
it also has, a second connotation.
I think it's cool. Now, do you find out with that name, do you find it works to your advantage from a marketing standpoint? Do people remember that name, or are they going, the band is Ram something, it's Dodge Ram, and do they screw it up? What happens?
Most of the time people tend to get it right just because of that sexual connotation that people, if you take the first two words and turn it into one word, as a lot of people
really? Okay.
seem to do.
Okay.
Which we don't endorse, but
No.
it gets us famous.
If they call you that, turn them around and call it Ram of the Tush.
Yeah.
Zing.
Different kind of band.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. On the style of music of the band, I really enjoyed reading where you said that you are your style is modernized underground British invasion. Now, bless you for that, because so many times I hear, we're alternative indie. I get it all the time, okay? And we've chewed on the show before about okay, look, it's a little overdone. And define yourself. Well, you've defined yourself. The other thing is, just in looking at it, do you really listen to the British invasion? Do you guys like the British invasion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did it? Because you weren't there. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
You weren't there, or it wasn't happening in the bush at that time. So the thing is, how did you get inspired by the British invasion?
Well, I know for me, I started listening, and everyone says this as that poster. The Beatles. I was fascinated by their songwriting, how prolific they were.
Okay.
And I was enthralled by how good they were at their songwriting. So that kind of fed into, okay, well, I want to study other songwriting styles from the British invasion and see, so I got into Zeppelin, which got into the guitar playing and all that sort of stuff.
But Zeppelin wasn't really British invasion now.
Yeah, it was shortly after.
Okay,
Yeah, you're right.
It was a later time. So so you're thinking that maybe, early '60s, mid '60s, late '60s, or is it all kind of a wash to you? It was to a lot of people in the '60s.
Yeah, right. So like you said, the Stones were a big one too.
Because there's some really great bands that still don't get recognized as much. There's Jerry and the Pacemakers, Freddie and the Dreamers. There's just, the Barbarians. these bands that had some hits, but never, obviously like the Beatles or anybody of that sort. Great material. The common thread in that material that I hear so much in yours, it's blues based.
Yes.
It's blues based. And it's just the British interpretation of the blues. And but I like the fact that you picked up on that, and just with the blues. And I don't know if that has anything to do with your, with your studies or your background or anything of that sort. But blues coming from the sense of the gospel and the spiritual, is such and still to this day, it is timeless as an important part of music. So I think it's cool. But what you're calling it, modernized underground. Help me with that.
Did you come up with that?
No, yeah.
Okay, confession. It is confession
me.
now. Okay.
And I think, you're talking about defining music, and it's so hard to define music, of any band, really. And so I think one of the things that we deal with most is on any given day and on any given song, on our album or any given song that we're playing at a show, we're going to be a different kind of band.
Right.
And so a different attitude in that song, and we're going to be bringing different things to the table. So I think when I was trying to come up with the little blurb that we have up on our MySpace that describes us or defines us, I tried to be more guiding than limiting.
Okay.
So I think that the basis of our sound really does come from the inspiration of the British invasion and of that general era. But the underground, I guess it's not necessarily a literal underground, but that opens the doors for us to kind of draw from inspiration. Modern, obviously, we all come from, we've all been in a lot of different bands before this that varied a lot.
Sure.
Our individual music tastes vary a lot. Just the bands that we listen to in the car on our own. And so we bring all these different things to the table. So I guess that was just kind of the best way to mesh.
Well, I liked when I listened to all your material, the thing that struck me about it all is, again, it's blues-based writing. It reminded me the most of Led Zeppelin. Of all the influences you mentioned, a lot like Led Zeppelin, but without all the hard edge. If you sort of peel away the hardness of Led Zeppelin, you sort of find that core blues, and that's what I was finding in a lot of your stuff. And I think it's great. I think you defined it very, very well. So there's all compliments to you. You said that, getting gigs at venues is getting tougher and tougher. That's a big challenge for you guys. Have you been exploring any new ways of getting gigs? I mean, if you contact a venue and you say, we're ramming the bush when you do, modernized underground British invasion, click. Yeah. So how do you get around this to get gigs?
The best thing we've found is we've found like a core group of other bands that are in a similar situation as us, where they have trouble fitting in with most of what's popular today.
Okay.
And we all kind of have that vintage vibe and that vintage feel to us, where we all look back on days gone by and say, they were doing it right then. What the hell's going on now?
Okay.
So we gonna kind of stick with these people, and we'll approach venues together.
Well, and that's smart. I mean, package, and actually you can take that to the next level. Theme the show.
Sure.
Theme the show. If you take a piece of late '60s history or something, and maybe it's a celebration about a late '60s. Let's say it's a moon landing in '69. Okay, so the show's going to be the moon landing that night, and you can create with a bunch of the bands and kind of the whole merge feel and everything else that like we're landing on the moon all over again, but this time we're doing it for real. Okay, it isn't a Hollywood production as has been rumored, but you can have a heck of a lot of fun with that. And when you get a person's curiosity up, and people say, okay, we're going to wear spacey stuff and we're going to wear some 60s vintage stuff, and create activities around that, you have a happening. And the numbers go after the happening, and the clubs are saying, "Bring me the numbers." Okay, so I think that's really cool. Develop that even further, because that's just the way to do it. But there's a way around it. And once you get to the clubs, and once you pull the numbers, and people hear you and celebrate you, they come back.
Yeah.
It's like a customer shopping for anything. They're satisfied with the product, they're going to come back. And they vote with their feet, and they vote with their ears, and they vote with their wallet. So,
and not even just the people that come to the shows, but the people who book the shows and the people who own the bars that you play at. Your first impression is going to be the best one. So
do you it's so smart. Do you feel that bands are not enthusiastic enough about the live experience? Do you feel it? Do you feel a lot of fellow bands are just going, we got a gig tonight?
Yeah, some of them. I think there's just as many that really are, though, that are kind of underappreciated. And I think experience is kind of the biggest thing. Just getting to, you really do. You have to be a people person because,
Right.
you got to, introduce yourself to the sound guy and get to know him because, he may be having a
Wise
terrible
advice.
day.
Right.
If you're nice to him, he's going to be more likely to give you a good sound for the night.
Right.
I think you see that though. Bands that show up to the shows less than enthusiastic. You see that, to me, mostly when bands don't really believe in their own product. When they don't like what they do, they're just in the band to be in the band. I know a lot of guys like that, and I've never been in a band like that, so I don't know what it's
Sure.
like. But to me, that would it'd take all the fun out of doing it.
But doesn't it show live? I mean, the way you feel about it, it's
Yeah.
what you project from the stage.
Right.
Your enthusiasm as an entertainer. If you're not in love with what you're doing or you're uncertain of your product or what you're doing, it's going to show.
Yeah, no one's that good of a performer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Then you move into acting.
Yeah,
oh
right.
my gosh. You started out in 2007 as a cover band. You were a cover band. Do you still play any covers at all? If we go to a Ram show, what are we going to find in the bush? Any cover songs? What's